Thanks so much for joining us on the show today. Daniel, tell us a bit about the company's main function.
Okay, so Atlancis Technologies is the first company in Africa, in the wider Africa, North and South, to adopt open infrastructure, which is now the use of open compute technology to build our own state-of-the-art cloud infrastructure at probably 20-30% of the cost of what you'll normally do. So I'll probably give you a brief background about OCP. So OCP is a non-proprietary open source computing and cloud computing infrastructure that uses designs sourced from the Open Compute project. Open Compute project was started by Microsoft, by Facebook in 2011, when they realized the need of them to have aggressive expansion, and they could not use the standard way of deploying technology using proprietary computing infrastructure. So they created the Open Compute project, which is a foundation that now has a lot of other contributors, including Microsoft, Intel, Amazon, and many other contributors that bring the ideas together. So there's thousands of engineers and tens of companies contributing to this project that sees how do we bring down the cost of data center acquisition, the cost of rolling out infrastructure, the cost of creating the building blocks that run data centers around the world. So Atlancis is part of this project, and we are very happy to be the first company in Africa to adopt and actually use this technology.
Right. You know, I think you just touched on it right now, but just let me make it clear for everyone. Why is it so important for African companies to use OCP?
So OCP is, in my thinking, in fact, African companies should be the first and the organizations in the forefront in terms of adopting OCP, because the costs for OCP compared to proprietary infrastructure is probably at 50% the cost. And hyperscalers world over use OCP to run their infrastructure. So the big providers of cloud or even social media and all companies that are processing millions of terabytes of data in a day, they use OCP. And Africa is lagging behind because we are not able to scale appropriately by using proprietary technologies that, of course, has their own limitations. So if you adopt OCP, we'll be able to we'll be able to acquire technology at a cheaper cost and also be able to roll it out in a faster and more efficient way. We have a lot of barriers in Africa in terms of technology, which include energy and connectivity and the rest of the problems. And OCP comes to solve these problems at a fraction of the costs that you normally do with other proprietary hardware.
Right. So what can African governments do to put maybe in place policies, or how can they push forward the efforts?
So the African governments and companies like us need to learn from what is happening in the West or in more developed markets that even have more to spend. They don't necessarily use proprietary technologies at this age and time. And organizations that open up to have a look at open infrastructure technologies have reaped 30-40% in terms of gains from what they'll have normally have done with other technologies. So it's for companies and governments to embrace a newer way of doing things. What was delivered as technology in the 1970s and 80s cannot be the same way that we are delivering and consuming technology in the new millennium. So we need to change our approach and also open up to using other things that we've not used before that are actually beneficial to other markets that are even far beyond, far developed than we are ourselves in Africa.
Right. Where do you see, let's say in the next 5 years, how do you see the continent using big data?
So big data is now being summed as the hold of a new oil, as platforms and technologies that will help organizations and governments run their their governments better or their businesses better. And big data for us, the way we look at it, it's how you're able to deliver this value that everyone says is in data or is in big data, how you're able to deliver this value of this data at a fraction of the cost. And that's where technologies like OCP come into play for ourselves. And the platforms that we are building using OCP are scalable, Africa-wide, and they'll be readily available for Pan-African use in the next couple of months. And we will have now different ecosystem players, including African developers, coming up with their niche ideas and platforms and products that help drive the adoption of big data and such technologies. And they're able to do this from the comfort of their countries, create niche solutions for their markets or for their economies, where we as Atlancis are not able to reach essentially. So our technology is actually the building block or the baseline for adoption of technologies such as big data. And we hope to work with the rest of Africa to make this happen.
Right. Daniel, just before I let you go, where do you think the most investment should be channeled in order to scale up?
So for companies that are building base infrastructure like us, of course, there's a lot of investment to be done in the compute and the computing power. This is the hardware, and of course the software that powers the whole infrastructure. But for organizations that do not necessarily have the capacity to absorb or to attract that kind of investment, there's always the investment that companies can do in their people that will help them to take advantage of platforms like ours. So our platforms are truly open, and anyone can come with their solution and run it on top of ours. And we are able to offer a platform where many other African companies can build their own solutions on top. So it depends on at what level a particular organization is at. If they want to go ground up to build everything like ourselves, ground up and offer it as a platform, they'll be more than welcome. Then if companies only have 2-3 people and they want to build niche solutions that can address specific markets, they're also welcome to use our platform to do that.
Right. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.